Kickoff in Columbia is just around the corner, and these are my game-by-game predictions for the South Carolina Gamecocks this season. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And as always, we are powered by our friends over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/SECU to get $250 in bonus bets today. The excitement is at an all-time high in the Palmetto State as the Gamecocks look to make another run to the college football playoff. Guys, these are my game-by-game predictions for South Carolina in the upcoming 2025 college football season. Before we dive into it, I want to talk about what our friends over at FanDuel think. Make sure you go to FanDuel.com/SECU to place your bets. They've got the over-under win total for Carolina set at 7.5. Interestingly enough, the over at +152, the under at -188. So what makes that so interesting? Well, what that means is the majority of the money is coming in on the under 7.5. And it only reinforces to me there's a lot of split opinions on this team. You got some folks that are projecting 6-6 or 7-5. You got some out there throwing out there 9-3 or maybe even 10-2 in Carolina getting to the college football playoff this season. Going to make for a very interesting one down in Columbia as we pull up the 2025 schedule and I lock in my game-by-game predictions. Guys, we will start in the season opener, of course, in Atlanta, Georgia, on that Sunday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium as South Carolina and Virginia Tech tangle up, do battle, a little SEC, ACC flavor to get us going in this season. What makes this so compelling for me is this. It's not that I think Virginia Tech is a very good team, right? I think the first game line, the line on this game actually indicates South Carolina is the superior team. They're right at about a double-digit favorite in this game. But what makes it interesting is this. If you look at the Gamecocks' track record in season openers, heck, look at Shane Beamer's track record in season openers at South Carolina. But all you South Carolina folks out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Season openers are tricky now. Season openers are tricky. You just never know. And in this day and age of college football, we've never known less, right? There's so many new portal pieces and so many new additions. And we think we know what we think we know, but we don't really know. Right? Like game one is the most unpredictable game of the season. Look at Carolina last year, almost losing to Old Dominion on their home field. So listen, during Shane Beamer's tenure, a 2023 season, you came in with a bunch of hype. What happened in that one? You gave up 9 sacks and you got embarrassed against North Carolina. Last year, you had Old Dominion. 2022, listen, you did beat up on Georgia State, but it took a couple blocked punts in that game to make that game a little bit more comfortable than it was earlier in the contest for sure. And then 2021, you beat an Eastern Illinois team that just simply didn't have a pulse. So it's been kind of interesting. It's been kind of interesting the way Shane Beamer Company have opened up the season. That being said, and I will admit, it's a game that gives me some concern. I've seen South Carolina enough come out, start slow, play sloppy in openers, and I don't think Vatek's great, but they'll be good enough to beat you if you don't show up and play your best football. That being said, South Carolina, like in many contests this season, they are going to have the best football player on the field in this game, and that is Lenoris Sellers. Heck, they're going to have the best football player on the field on both offense and defense with Lenoris Sellers and then Dylan Stewart, of course, the edge on the other side. I think South Carolina beats Virginia Tech, but I will tell you this, I will not be surprised if this game is closer than most are expecting. And it's not because of a Virginia Tech thing. We've just seen the Gamecocks before stumble out of the gate. We have seen them not play well in week ones. You do have a new OC. You're figuring out what your running game is going to look like. A lot of new pieces in your front seven. I expect South Carolina to win. I'm picking them to win. But again, you and I both know, and those of us who have watched South Carolina football, be wary of a season opener. You don't play well, anything can happen. The worst possible thing that could happen is drop this game to Vatek in week one. I don't think you do. I think South Carolina starts 1-0. Week 2, you got South Carolina State. This will be a flex your muscles, name your score game, ho-hum, no big deal. Gamecocks will roll. You'll probably see Luke Doty at QB2. Maybe you see Air Nolan come in. QB3 or whatever the battle is there for the backup position. This will be a great opportunity to get all your young guys in, empty the bench. Coaches love these games, right? Because you can sell these in recruiting. Heck, you can sell them in the portal. Hey, we play our guys. Guys play. You're going to play early. This will be a good opportunity. This game's a blowout. You move to 2-0. Then the following week, you open SEC play as the Vanderbilt Commodores come to town. As you sit 2-0, SEC play begins. This game taking place at Williams-Brice Stadium. Listen, I like Diego Pavia. I think Diego Pavia is one of the SEC's most electric players. He can make things happen that no other player can. I love Eli Stowers, the tight end. I think defensively, they're actually going to be pretty salty. Here's the reality of this football game, though. Until Vanderbilt beats South Carolina, you just can't pick it. You just can't do it, right? And I still think, obviously, South Carolina as a roster is in a better place than Vanderbilt is. Although Vandy, I think, has made some nice strides. They're doing some good things. But South Carolina, top to bottom, once again, they're going to have the best football player on the field, that being Lenora Sellers. I don't trust that Vandy's going to have an answer for what Dylan Stewart's going to do. Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, some of these other guys in the front seven they picked up, Fred Johnson at linebacker. I think South Carolina, they stymied Diego Pavia a season ago. They won the battle in the trenches. I think physically South Carolina is still in a better place. I think they will beat Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia will have some highlight moments. He'll make some things happen. But I think Lenora Sellers will have more of them. And I think the Gamecocks on their home field. Listen, you ain't lost to Vandy in like 20 years. It just, until it happens, nobody can go out there and pick it. South Carolina will beat Vanderbilt, start 1-0 in SEC play, and start the season at 3-0. Then comes your first SEC road trip as you go to the other Columbia, Missouri, and battle for the Mayor's Cup. Now, this is one I think a lot of South Carolina fans are just checking this off as a W because, hey, you snapped the streak last year, and Missouri has always been viewed to the light by Gamecock fans as it's a should win. Mizzou does not measure up to the program South Carolina is. There is no level of respect from those in Columbia, South Carolina, to those in Columbia, Missouri. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's just the way the fan base feels, or at least the majority of them, from what I have gathered, it is what it is. That being said, Como's not a place you've had success. It has been a really tough place to play. It's been a house of horrors. For whatever reason, Eli Drinkwitz has owned South Carolina up until last year when it looked like, again, they were going to win this football game. You had the late touchdown by Rocket Sanders, one of the most incredible games of the 2024 season. But streaks are made to be broken. And I think South Carolina finally found something last year against MIZ. I think you go into Como and I think you win this football game. I do. I think Missouri this early on in the season still going to have some question marks. And listen, this pick worries me. This pick does give me some worry because I think Mizzou is going to be better than people realize. But I think catching them early in the season is a good place to get them. Have they figured out the quarterback position with Bo Pribula and Sam Horn? Who are their guys on the outside that are going to step up and make plays? Ahmad Hardy is really good at the running back spot, and I think Corey Batoon is a really solid defensive coordinator. But it kind of felt like last year, South Carolina got that MIZ monkey off their back. Now, maybe that doesn't apply. You go to Como, you drop this game, and you still, for whatever reason, it just continues to be a house of horrors for you. But I think South Carolina is a better football team than Missouri. I think they will outlast Missouri in this game. Wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of a defensive slugfest. But I think the Gamecocks, who played really well on the road a season ago, I think they find a way to go in there, get a win. You're 4-0, and you're 2-0 in SEC play. The next week, you play the Kentucky Wildcats just before the bye week. Guys, Kentucky's the worst team in the SEC this year. They are not good. Kentucky, hell, they might lose to Toledo week 1. This is going to be no problem. I don't even see this. Kentucky's bad. It would take a monumental upset, especially at this point if you're sitting 4-0. It'd take a monumental upset. I just don't see it. I won't spend a lot of time on it. I think you beat Kentucky well. Again, Kentucky, to me, worst team in the SEC. Yes, worse than Mississippi State. I don't think they win a conference game this year. I'm giving the Gamecocks the nod. So, guys, you're starting 5-0 and 3-0 in SEC play. And here's what I'll say about this schedule. You need to start at worst 4-1. 5-0 would be ideal, but at worst 4-1. Because after this Kentucky game, going in the month of October, you go into a bye week, and then what awaits you is truly the meat of your schedule. This is where things are going to get difficult. And I know that South Carolina, Cocktober, I know they finished well under Shane Beamer. But, guys, these last 7 games are a gauntlet. I mean, they really, truly are a gauntlet. After the bye week, you go on the road to LSU to take on the Bayou Bengals, the Fighting Tigers, if you will. Does LSU have a loss at this point, right? Do they lose the season opener to Clemson? Hell, do they lose on the road to Ole Miss? Do they come in with 2 losses and their playoff hopes are on the line? And even if they're undefeated, obviously, guys, the sense of urgency for LSU, it never goes away, but certainly it will be there as they fight for an SEC title appearance, college football playoff, etc. I know this has been labeled a revenge game by Gamecock fans everywhere. I totally get that. I totally understand. I was at the game last year between South Carolina and LSU, and certainly you can make a case that Carolina got robbed. You jump out to the 17-0 lead. We all know what happens, but I think the bigger issue in that game was Lenore Sellers getting injured at halftime. I think if he's healthy through 4 quarters, you win that game. We're not even having the conversation about what the referees did or did not do. The Nikki Manwari pick 6 that did not count. That is going to be a big storyline the week of this game. Guys, I don't think what happened in 2024 matters much in 2025. You still got to go into Death Valley. You got to go into Baton Rouge and find a way to beat LSU. And I'm very high on LSU. And I think South Carolina at this point's rolling. But I think LSU's rolling too because I got them undefeated going into this game. I do think they beat Clemson in the season opener. I do think they beat an Ole Miss. I think that's week 3 or 4 on the road. I think the vibes are high in Baton Rouge. Well, hey, this might be College game day again. It might. If they're both undefeated, it very well should be. But I got LSU protecting the home field here. I think South Carolina, maybe some of those losses on defense really start to show themselves here. I think Gibbert Nussmeier, that offensive attack, the pieces they added on the outside, I think that offense will have a big-time day against the Carolina defense. I got LSU getting this win and handing the Gamecocks their first loss of the 2025 season. So, again, you're still sitting at 5-1. Then you come home the following week. You take on the Oklahoma Sooners. If you've been paying attention, and listen, this is one, I get it. I think fans really struggle to go from one year to the next. It's like, well, A happened last year, and then B is going to happen this year, so it equates to C. The problem with that math problem is A is irrelevant in that conversation. Like, what happened last year doesn't matter. So when you tell me that South Carolina was up 21-0 on Oklahoma in the first 5 minutes of the game, I know that. But it's not the same team. It's not even remotely the same team. Think about that. It's not even close. And South Carolina's not the same team. So let's keep that in mind when we're talking about what's going to happen and what may not happen. That being said, I got Oklahoma coming into Williams-Brice Stadium and upsetting South Carolina. Listen, do me a favor. Think outside of the box a little bit with these predictions. It's not just the Gamecocks. It's every fan base. College football is unpredictable. It's wacky. It doesn't mean South Carolina can't win this game. It's absolutely a toss-up contest. But I am high on Oklahoma. I've got them at 9-3 on the season. I think John Mateer comes in this game and goes crazy. I think John Mateer has a field day. I think this will be a great battle, by the way, between John Mateer and Lenore Sellers. I question South Carolina's offensive line in this football game. I question their ability to run the football in this football game. Oklahoma has got one of the best defensive fronts, if you ain't been paying attention, in the entire SEC. Their front 7 is legit. R. Mason Thomas, Kip Lewis, they're all very slept on for whatever reason. I think Brent Venables will have a really good plan. Upset loss following what I think is an emotional LSU game. Upset loss at Williams-Brice Stadium to drop you to 5-2 overall. So back-to-back losses. Here's the good news, guys. As we get into the end of October, and it's funny, people call it Cocktober, but South Carolina does most of their damage under Shane Beamer in November, ironically enough. But you and I both know, South Carolina every season, they have that one game. They have that one game later in the season, or maybe it's early, but I feel like it's typically later in the season, night game at Williams-Brice, not a ton of expectations around it, but there's just that one game every year where you can call it the Sandstorm game. We're reminded how electric Columbia can get. We're reminded how electric Williams-Brice Stadium can get. I think we're reminded that when Alabama comes to town that following week after Oklahoma. I think we're reminded of it. This is going to be my flyer. This is my big upset for South Carolina. After last year when you had Bama on the ropes, I think that was a teaching moment for Carolina. You saw them bounce back, win 6 straight. That was a big moment for them. Lenora Sellers kind of grew up in the second half of that game. They won another shot at Alabama, and I'm very high on Bama. I got Bama going 11-1, and this is their one loss. I think if you look at the Bama schedule, the way it sets up is perfect for South Carolina to get them. It's going to be a night game at Williams-Brice Stadium. It's homecoming. I mean, the place will be frenzied. Now, South Carolina, obviously going to have to play a great football game to win. But again, they have one of these every single season where it just all comes together. It all clicks. I think the night that it does so is against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Towels will be waving. Sandstorm will be going. The Gamecocks chant will be ringing through the city and through the Palmetto State that night. Carolina pulls the upset and beats the Alabama Crimson Tide, who, again, I've got going 11-1 and going to the SEC title. And I think it is Shane Beamer's signature win, and believe it or not already, year number 5 of his tenure. So I got you beating Alabama, bouncing back in a big way. That gets you to bowl eligibility. You're sitting at 6-2 overall. You're feeling good about yourself. Guys, the SEC is an unforgiving league. It is. There is no conference in the country that will humble you on a week-to-week basis more than the SEC. As Kirby Smart once said, humility is just a week away. Well, the following week, you travel on the road to Oxford, Mississippi to take on the Ole Miss Rebels, and unfortunately, I think you run into humility. I do. Again, Ole Miss, another team I feel really good about. I think they're underrated. I love Austin Simmons at the quarterback position. I think they're better. They're going to be better defensively, especially at this point in the season, than people realize under Pete Golding. I think Ole Miss gets this win in Oxford. Again, guys, it's another Gamecock season of the up and down, the emotional highs and lows. Does it make sense? Maybe not, but welcome to college football, and especially welcome to South Carolina football. You drop that game at Ole Miss. You're sitting at 6-3. Then you go into a bye week, which will be much, much needed at this point in the season. You sit at 6-3. Your college football playoff hopes are on life support. The bye will be very useful as a time to rest, recover, regroup, because the following week you go on the road to Kyle Field and College Station. Guys, I think Texas A&M's beating you. I think you fall to 6-4 here. I do like the A&M roster a lot. I really question the matchup, or I give the favorability to the matchup. Texas A&M's O-line against South Carolina's D-line. They'll be able to neutralize Dylan Stewart. They've got the horses to ground and pound and run, work off some play action with Marcel Reed, Casey Concepcion at the wide receiver position. I think South Carolina will struggle in the trenches. And guys, they've never won at Kyle Field before. It's kind of like I was saying about Vandy earlier in the show. Till you win, it's tough. It's tough to wrap your brain around. They're going to go into Kyle Field at this point in the season and beat the Texas A&M Aggies. Again, can Lenora Sellers put this team on his back and do it? I think he's certainly capable. Can he outduel Marcel Reed? I think he's certainly capable. But I trust more what Marcel Reed has around him than what Lenora Sellers does right now. So I'm going to go Texas A&M. And again, I think they drop you to 6-4. Thankfully, there's relief on the other side. You host Coastal Carolina. Ho-hum, no big deal. You beat them to go 7-4. Again, this will be a great opportunity to really vent some frustration, beat up on somebody else, and run up the scoreboard, name your score kind of game. They'll take down Coastal Carolina with ease to move to 7-4. And then you've got the rivalry game showdown. I'll tell you this. Whoever made this a noon Eastern time kickoff, just the worst. That's just the worst. And I know you all agree. It sucks that we get this game at noon. This one's been really interesting, guys, because I'll admit, I think the Clemson hype's a little overdone. I do. I'm like, when did we all decide that Clemson's elite? Like when did we decide that Clemson is elite all of a sudden? You know, I think they're very talented, like very, very talented. But we just saw South Carolina beat them last year up at Memorial Stadium. Like, what has changed so much in those 365 days? Not even from the South Carolina Clemson perspective, from the perspective that Clemson's a preseason top 5 team and a favorite to win the national title. Again, a lot of talent, but it's been interesting the hype they've gotten. This rivalry is also interesting because of its back and forth nature. South Carolina and Clemson have traded blows every year since 2021, right? Shane Beamer's first year, you lose to him at home. 2022, you beat him at Clemson. 2023, you lose to him at home in an ugly, ugly game. And then last year, You beat them at Clemson. This is such a massive game. And I know some of you out there are saying, I can't believe you got them at 7-4. The playoff will be off the horizon. Sure, it will. But hear me out. And you know this as well as I do. Beating Clemson's still a really big deal. Like, you can go 8-4 every year at South Carolina, but if one of those 8's beating Clemson, brother, you're going to have a lifetime contract. People don't realize outside the state how big of a rivalry this is. How big it would be to beat Clemson again and go back-to-back. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, we own the state. We're going to start getting some of that hype that Clemson's getting, right? But it's something about this rivalry. We saw this in the 90s, by the way. The road teams, for whatever reason, had a ton of success in this game. And I think we might be back to that. I've got Clemson winning this football game coming into Williams-Brice. I hate it's not at night because I think that would help South Carolina out significantly. I do love what Clemson has in the front seven. I do think their defensive front, it's elite. It really, truly is. South Carolina's losses in the secondary concern me. Some of the defensive losses concern me from the standpoint of matching up with Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, Antonio Williams. I think at this point, Clemson has established who their RB1 is, and the running game is operating at an elite level. Great game, back and forth game. But again, guys, we're in this weird back and forth in this rivalry. I think it continues. I don't know why, but they keep trading blows. I mean, listen, I do believe that Clemson's got one of the most talented rosters in college football. This is their year to make a run to the national championship. If they're going to get back, I don't necessarily think they do, but this is their year to make a run. I think they come into Columbia, South Carolina. I mean, guys, let's face it. Clemson's had more success in Williams-Brice. They've had at home playing the Gamecocks. I think that plays a factor in this one too. I got Clemson winning this football game, and I've got South Carolina. End of the day, I've got them at 7-5 overall, 4-4 in conference play, just falling under that 7.5 win total via our friends over at FanDuel. And I'll just say this, and I don't have to make this statement with any other fan base on any other prediction video, but for very obvious reasons, I think I must say this here. I am more than happy to have football discourse and banter with every single one of you. Hey, South Carolina could go 10-2. They also could go 6-6. They also could go 5-7. And humor me for a moment if you don't think so. Think back to 2023. If I would have told you that team was going to go 5-7, you would have called me crazy. And guess what they did? They went 5-7. So it's not outside the realm of possibility. But I already know, because I've already seen it on social media, there are a lot of great Gamecocks that will fill these comments with football banter and discourse, and we'll have conversation, and we can just agree to disagree. If I'm wrong, I don't care. I'd prefer to be wrong. That's great. But we're going to be able to have conversation. But unfortunately, there are many of you that the way that you'll respond to this is with personal shots. Spreading misinformation about myself on social media platforms in these YouTube comments. And that's your right to do that. The beautiful thing is you can go on social media, you can go on YouTube, you can go on whatever platform and say whatever you want. But we will block you. Those are the only people I block. I don't know if you noticed that. Those are the only people I block. So if you want to have football discourse and banter and talk about these predictions more in detail, we can. If you want to make malicious attacks against my character, spread information, spread lies about me to the masses, that's totally fine too, but we will block you. We will not entertain it. That is my right as owning this company, as owning this entity. I don't have to say that with any of the fan base. But unfortunately, for South Carolina fans, I have to put that out there because unfortunately, that runs rampant in that community. That being said, the last thing I'll say is this. For those who think I'm crazy and think 9-3 or 10-2 is a guarantee. I don't care if you're picking 9-3 or 10-2. That's good for you. My guy, Cole the Bear Thompson's picking 9-3. Just keep this context in mind when you do so. Understand how historically significant of a season it will be if South Carolina goes 9-3 or especially 10-2. The Gamecocks football program has won 9 or more games in a season 8 times, including last year, in the history of the program. They have won 10 or more games 4 whole times in over 100 years of playing football. Does that mean that they're not going to be able to do it at some point? That's not what that means. History's history for a reason. History can be changed. But I also believe in DNA traits of programs. I believe in it, guys. It's why I have Oklahoma bouncing back and having the season they're going to have. And to be real, it's why I've got South Carolina falling to 7-5 this season. This is South Carolina football. This is what they've done forever in their history. If we're going to have a Steve Spurrier level consistency from Shane Beamer, cool. Prove me wrong. But I'm not going to stick my neck out there and pick it until I see otherwise. Again, the numbers in history would tell you it ain't going to happen. Maybe it will, because they've never had a player like Lenore Sellers under center before. They've never had a guy like that. I just question if he has enough help on both sides of the football to get him there. So, with that being said, I've stated where I'm at, 7-5, 4-4 in conference play. I've stated where I'm at. Let's have discourse. Let's have banter. For the rest of you, again, get blocked. It is what it is. So again, leave us your predictions. Leave us your comments. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? How do you see this 2025 college football season playing out for Shane Beamer and South Carolina? Guys, that's going to do all for me. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Before we get out of here, I do want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel, because as always, we are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. On Tuesday, August 26th, it's FanDuel Futures Day, a new holiday for football fans. It's 24 hours of deals on all your football season predictions, so take a flyer on the MVP race, whether it is Josh Allen, it is Lamar Jackson, it's Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, whatever it might be. Crown your champion in August. Maybe it's the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Falcons, the Titans, the Bengals, whoever it is, or parlay your division winner dark horses. Mark your calendars. This is your day for your hunches, your hot takes, your calls, and your odds. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. And make sure you sign up over at FanDuel.com/SECU. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. FanDuel, play your game. Guys, once again, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, where we get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. So next time, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we will catch you all on the other side.